All right, welcome back. We have Chapter 7, Laptops and Other Devices. Now, as I was saying to people offline, we have a reschedule of days and realignment of some of the units. So we'll just get this stuff knocked out as fast as possible, and then after the recording we'll have a bit of chat about what's going on, and hopefully by then we'll have a few more people online rather than watching this remotely. All right, so to James, morning, welcome. All right, so let's us have a look at what we're going to have a chat about today. We're going to be looking at laptops in the first section, and then basically we'll be in other mobile devices. We'll be looking at tablets and mobile phones and things like that. And with that, we'll talk about wireless connectivity, which we've covered in other topics a bit, and have a look at very basic overview of synchronizing email accounts across mobile devices and things like that. And like with every chapter in IT Essentials, we cover the 6 basic troubleshooting processes, and I've deleted the pages of repetition out of this slide because you can read it on your own, and I'll just cover off the main 6 points as usual. So we all have mobile devices today, whether it's laptops, mobile phones, or tablets, or iPads, whatever you want to call them. So most of us have some form of mobile device, and generally know that they have self-contained power source, generally small and lightweight compared to a full desktop, and they can connect to other periphery devices just like a desktop can, but normally through wireless connectivity, so through Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, things like that. So laptops is pretty much a mobile PC, and they have a screen, a keyboard, CPU, basically all the components of a PC, and a few specialty items like they have a battery for being self-contained power, and they'll have various ports for connectivity and things like that. So USB ports, HDMI ports. They won't have as many because they're smaller and therefore can't have as many ports and plug-in devices and that. So we will need specialist expansion equipment, which we'll touch on, like the USB hubs and things like that. Smartphones, do I really need to cover this? We've all got one in this day and age. You guys have been using them probably longer than what I have. So they have apps. They basically run an operating system, either, morning Jacob, and connect via Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, as well as via mobile services. A lot of them will have some form of GPS functionality, although a lot of them don't actually have a true GPS in them. Most of them just use a triangulation system across the mobile towers to position themselves rather than a true GPS service. So that allows you to get the Google Drive maps and things like that happening with it. They're fairly accurate to within a few meters. Tablets and e-readers. Now, so this covers our, iPads and other devices like that. I have a Kindle, an old Amazon Kindle. It's a huge one, and that was a DX one. That's just a black text on a screen. Comes out to reading surface comes out to be about the size of a novel, and it allows me to transport my library of technical reference manuals that are very heavy and bulky in one little device. And I can read off the e-reader just like a book, which is why I got it. And I can zoom in on the diagrams and things like that and change text fonts. And so for people with eyesight issues, they're quite useful. So now these tether via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. My e-reader is a USB, or it's actually got a Wi-Fi. Well, it's not actually. It's a cellular service in it that connects, and I can download and sync with my Amazon account for all my books. Most tablets and that have touchscreens. This particular one doesn't. It has buttons and a little joystick for navigating. But a lot of the newer ones are all touchscreen devices, just like your phones. E-readers battery lives, because they don't have as many devices and don't connect to the internet all the time, are very efficient as far as battery life is concerned, especially compared to a laptop. So Bluetooth is generally used to connect smartwatches across to your phones, and these are wearable devices that have inbuilt sensors to track your pulse and temperature and all that sort of stuff on it, and they sync with your phone and bring up your notifications for when you get emails and messages and things like that, and most of them that vibrate or something like that, so that you're aware of getting that message. Now, in this augmented reality and virtual realities, we've seen both come out first in games and then in other applications. For most users, we would have had augmented reality where we Pokemon Go was one of the first games that used augmented reality, where you could actually turn your camera on your phone and look around and see the game characters in position in the real world. So the same thing can occur when you're looking at maintenance applications or anything. Really, your imagination is the limit as far as development of where augmented reality can come to. And virtual reality, I think we've got a long way to go in that, because of the simple fact that you got those goggles on and you lose touch with the environment that you're actually in. So you're moving around and that, you can cause quite a bit of damage. So all these mobile devices, as I said earlier, will be made up of the same device components as what a PC is. So you have a motherboard, you'll have proprietary fittings, shape, depending on the manufacturer, what type of expansion slots. They'll still have industry standards, same with the RAM slots and that, specifically for mobile devices. CPUs, your SATA drives and solid state drives will all be smaller. Normally your 2.5 inch and the smaller 1.8 inch now are there. And you can also have these bolt-on straight in the motherboard SATA drives rather than your traditional 2.5 inch. These things just plug straight into your motherboard. So there you go. Technology is always changing, and as such, if you want to be in the IT profession, you will always be required to go back and study, because we need to keep current with new technologies. And besides writing new content for our server course, I've also decided to pick up some Microsoft Azure cloud certifications moving forward for myself. Got to keep up with the times, I suppose. As you all know, I personally am a router and switch guy, so got to round it off somewhere, get a bit more broad knowledge. Haven't done servers and that for years and years. Now it's time to update skills and broaden out your horizons a bit. So always study, keep on top of things as things come out, and enjoy is the message that I'm really trying to say. So special function keys, we've all seen them on our laptops. So it's the little FN, normally in the blue, and with these special function keys we can adjust volumes, adjust light settings, multi-dual display setup, whether we've got split screens or mirrored screens, all that sort of thing. We've covered these before: liquid crystal displays, light emitting diodes, and organic light emitting. We've had those in other modules. Again, they're just built in rather than being separate. So with our changes in technology, rather than having everything permanently attached, we can now have detachable screens. Well, really it's not a detachable screen, it's a tablet that has a keyboard attachment. We've sort of seen the adverts for those. Cut-off switches to conserve power, so close the lid on the laptop, it puts it in the sleep mode, that sort of thing. Now, the two common backlight systems for our screens are fluorescent lamps or LEDs. LEDs are more precise, but not as fast as the fluorescent lamp system. So in large screen TVs, the fluorescent lamp system used to be known as plasma screens. They were the screens that you got for live action, like playing sports and things like that on. The problem with the cold cathode fluorescent lamp is heat. They put out a lot more heat. So, all right, moving on. Wi-Fi's. Our Wi-Fi needs 2 antennas. Well, we don't need 2 antennas. We have antennas that do 2 things. They transmit and receive. If we've got dual band, we'll need more than 1 antenna. Okay, so we'll have connectors, then we'll have the actual antenna, and then we'll have wire routing to get across to all of that functionality. Now, depending on where they decide to hide the components, they'll generally be around the screen or wrapped around other devices within the case, and they'll have small connectors coming out of the actual wireless card. So there's your 2 wires going off to your antennas. Webcam and microphones are available in most mobile devices now. It is very common practice for people to put a post-it note over the top of their webcam, because webcams are notoriously easy to hack, and the function light does not necessarily need to come on to indicate that the webcam is working. Normally positioned in the center above the screen, your microphone could be also on the screen, or it could be in the body of the laptop. Mine's actually on the front near where the touchpad is. So depending on where the manufacturer slots it, it'll change. Again, power management, CPU management, you've got more options in a mobile device than what you have on a PC, because these are actually designed to go into sleep and shut down modes more readily than a PC is designed to do. But with the advent of the modern operating system, where they basically have one operating system for multiple devices, it is becoming more common to see the same features across all the different types of devices. With each device, you will have an individual BIOS for that device, and the modes and where to find them under the menu systems will be very yes, Jacob, we're on 4-day schedules from here on out. Okay, we've got to make up for that missing first term. Sorry to say. And we're doing chapter 7 today. Okay, so we've got 4 more chapters for IT Essentials to finish off the online side of things, and then we've just got to knock out the assessments that are within my learning as well. Okay, not much left for this subject to go, 4 chapters. We've got to get in and do some practicals and stuff. and then, but I'll talk about that after the presentation's over. Okay. So as we went through BIOS settings and changing the settings and that in earlier chapters, basically the only ones that really change for mobile devices are the power settings, so battery modes, thermal management, waking on LAN, things like that. Not really that much different, but just a little couple of things there. Normally more options rather than less options when we go to a mobile device. Bluetooth is a 802 standard, so wireless standard 15. So Bluetooth is known as a PAN, the personal area network. And they basically work up to about 10 feet. 10 feet? Yeah, well, that's more accurate than the 10 meters. Bluetooth is very susceptible to obstructions and that. So depending on the size of the aerial, the power source and that range is very fluid. I've got a Bluetooth set of wireless headphones. They are very hit and miss. If I'm sitting down in the train, they work fine from the neck, picking up the phone in the pocket. But if I'm walking down the street, they don't work. Phone's still in my pocket, but because the phone orientation changes from sitting to standing, that's enough to throw the connection out. So take those things with a grain of salt. 10 meters, yeah. Bluetooth supports 128-bit encryption with PIN authentications for synchronizing devices together. You can have them devices sync via Bluetooth to your laptops, and you can buy little where are we? Down. There we go. Bluetooth audio adapters for your desktops and things like that. So I can plug that in and run my music and that across to my wireless headphones. So that's, Bluetooth doesn't have to be just mobile devices. You can have adapters in the desktops and things like that as well. Mobile phones, I'm not going to spend any time on mobile phones. You've all got them. You all know how to use them. You know that they can be, hotspotted, Bluetooth, USB, Wi-Fi, and, mobile phones. So I'll leave it at that. Now, the types of connections that these Wi-Fi adapters use in laptops dependent on the manufacturer, but as you can see there, we have mini PCI, mini PCIe, PCI Express Micro. Just like with everything else, as technology and time develops, we have slight changes in our connectors, as well as the type of wireless standard that we support using these cards. And because they are a modular system, you can actually remove them out of the laptop and update them to support a new standard of wireless. You just need to know what type of connector it is and then purchase the appropriate part. Express cards come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and basically these are plug-in cards to give you expansion options in a laptop. Now, most of my old smart cards and things like that for laptops were to do with plugging in network adapters. Okay, so we used to slot them in to get our network adapter, and these days most of the time we just use USB to do it rather than express cards. External flash drives, external hard drives, so anything that can connect via USB allows expansion. We can also use SD cards for flash drives and card readers. Depending on the manufacturer, they'll support different types of cards. Or you can, again, get a multi-card reader and attach it via USB port. Smart cards can also be used for your credit card readers and things like that. You can now get a little card reader that plugs into mobile phones rather than the big terminal shown here. They actually have the FPOS machine running directly off the phone. So again, as technology changes, so do the way that we can use them. So the two smart card readers are contact, where we've got to have physical connection by inserting the card into the reader, or contactless, where we basically touch the card against the reader and it reads the information from the card. So the memory is used in laptops, which is a classification, if you like, of DDR memory. So it's just the form factor that is used for memory in laptops. Hardware replacements, again, just like with desktops, we can replace hardware, but it's more expensive. Why is it more expensive? Because there's not as many being used, because people are used to doing hardware upgrades in a desktop, but not so much in laptops. Because you've got very big restrictions as far as space in a laptop and the form factors and where your mounting points are in a case in a laptop. They tend not to lend themselves to upgrades. We can update CDs, RAM, things like that, but not wholesale motherboards and things like that, because there's no overall standard for updating them, and the prices for laptop replacements are higher than desktops. Batteries are used, and batteries, while stored, discharge their current. Okay. Other things that occur is when we're charging them, batteries tend to overheat when being charged and discharged, and they can also leak acidic or corrosive components and can damage other hardware while they do that. So always make sure that if you're using replacement batteries or swapping batteries out, that it is compatible with the vendor. So you need to know that the voltage, the power rating, so what amp hours of the battery, and the adapters are all compatible with the original vendor specifications. Internal storage and optical drives can be swapped out with ease in today's environment. Most of them are plug and play, and most can be done while the machine is on, although I personally don't recommend it, because there's always a chance of a spark occurring as those connectors are coming into contact with each other. So you get a spark across the incorrect terminals and you can cause damage. So although they do say most things are now hot swappable, I would take that with a grain of salt. Cell phones, the main components is your SIM card, memory and battery. And with most laptops or tablets and that, you'll have a slide out little port shelf where you can put the SIM card into to provide mobile connectivity for data. Our list of variables in types of cables knows no bounds. USB-C, micro, lighting port, depending on your vendor, depends on the type of cable you'll need for your device. There's 4 main ones. Then you've got, if you've got laptops, you've also got the micro, HDMI, DisplayPort, mini, HDMI, mini. As I said, it goes on and on. Just check your paperwork, find out which cable type you need and use the correct cable types. Connectivity, sharing, tether, hotspots, Bluetooth, infrared, near field communications are all available to us today. Most of the ones that you would use would be tethering and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Infrared, not so much these days, other than controls for near field communications. A lot of the time that's just, security products and things like that will have those. And you're used to tethering and hotspotting your mobile phones now. We've already covered wearable. I'm not going to say it again. If you want to go back a few slides, it was there. Okay, we know GPS, we've covered GPS, we've covered e-readers. Why they repeat themselves, I do not understand, but they do. Alright, so we know wireless is used in these mobile devices to provide data connectivity. Most common is Wi-Fi and mobile, so your 3G, 4G and 5G coming out for your mobile devices. If you're in America, it's called cellular, and that comes from the design method we use in designing. We use a hex pattern, just like a B cell. We overlap them. So that's where their name came from. Each generation supports a different speed because it has a different frequency, more functionality. The higher the frequency we're using, the shorter the range, but the more data we can push through at once. It's a trade-off. So 5G starting to roll out. Telstra has enough hard time providing 4G in my area. I don't know about you guys up in Bendigo, but here in Melbourne, in Mernda, half the time, if I'm not connected to my Wi-Fi at home, I wouldn't have mobile functionality. So, yeah, airplane mode. So basically this just turns off all of our radio transmitters. So Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phones, hotspots, all of that gets turned off while in airplane mode, but you can still use your mobile device for everything else. Hotspotting is where we bridge our mobile to another device. Now we can do that via Wi-Fi if we're doing a Wi-Fi and mobile service, or we can tether it and provide the same hotspotting through a tethering. Bluetooth, I'm pretty sure you've all got some form of Bluetooth device in your life, whether it be headphones or speakers, keyboards, mice. So most people have some form of Bluetooth happening in their life. So basically, when you go to pair your devices, you'll get a code saying, okay, I've seen this device, confirm that this device is authorized to form a pair relationship with me, and so this passkey or code is typed in to confirm that these two devices are actually authorized to connect to each other. Okay, and once they've been connected and authorized, they remember and continue to connect whenever they come back in range in the future. Emails. We have email servers and clients, and we can use email on our mobile devices exactly the same as what we do for desktop computers. Okay, now one of the things that you can do with IMAP more so than POP is you can have your emails across multiple devices. Okay, POP actually downloads it to a device. So once you've downloaded them off the server, they're done. They're on that device. They're no longer on the server. Whereas IMAP, they're basically on the server and you read them locally. Multi-purpose extension, secure socket extension, and then simple mail transfer protocol is so I'll let you have a read of all those. You'll get sick of me talking about them because we cover them here. We cover them in servers, and we'll cover them in the Internet of Things, which is, we'll cover it a lot. Main things to remember is port numbers. All right, POP3 is 110, IMAP is 143, SMTP is 25. Once you remember those, you'll get most of your questions right. All right, so email address, we've all got them. We have a name and then a asset symbol and then the domain name for the email server. And we can use aliases for display name purposes, and then we can send and receive while connecting with the appropriate protocols to our server provider. Android and Apple all have the ability to connect to an email system. Now, you go to the App Store, download the appropriate apps, and then set up your accounts. Okay? Doesn't matter which one you are, just follow the instructions for whichever brand device you are using. One thing with mobile devices is you can have multiple apps for different services. You don't have to try to squeeze them all on one. So you can have one app downloading your personal email, another app downloading your work emails, for example. And then you can synchronize the data for those apps across your contacts, your emails, your calendars, whatever you need them to do. Okay? Follow the instructions for whichever version of application that you are using for synchronization, and whether or not it automatically backups those contacts and emails and so forth. Most of them now automatically sync with the cloud servers. So just be aware of that, and whether you want it to do that or not. Again, it's up to you. Preventative maintenance. Alright, just like our desktops, we need to do preventative maintenance. So, defragging hard drives, cleaning out dirt from the keyboard, behind the keyboard, clearing out the dust out of the motherboard, that sort of stuff, because the fins in the heat sinks and that all get clogged up with dust bunnies. So just like our desktops, we need to periodically give it a good blowout with compressed air, brush, just like that. Try to avoid spilling liquid over electronics. Electronics does not like it. Should go without saying. Okay, so cleaning of components. So clean the case, clean the vents, clean your display. As I said, it all attracts dust. Alright. Exactly. You don't want that magic black smoke from escaping electronics. The magic smoke escapes, your electronics don't work anymore. Try to use non-abrasive materials because, it's plastic and electronics. Alcoholic swabs and that sort of stuff. Soft cloth, cotton swabs, lint-free, a brush and compressed air basically are what you need to clean down the surfaces. If you are a spectacle wearing person like myself, you generally will have some form of lint-free cleaning rag that your optometrist gives you when they give you your glasses. They're great for cleaning out screens as well. So again, troubleshooting. Just about every chapter of this course we have the troubleshooting steps. So I'll just remind you of the troubleshooting process. Establish the problem. Think of a theory that coincides with the symptoms. Test your theory. Establish a plan of action to implement your solution. Verify that your solution worked. If it did, document it and put in preventative steps to stop it from happening again. If your solution does not resolve the problem undo what you've done so you're not compounding the problem with false solutions. Alright, as you get more experience, you'll get exposed to more problems, and you'll find certain devices have more repetition of errors than others, i.e. common problems you'll come across. Alright, most common one is the user, and this is where using your correct open and closed questions when trying to establish what the problem is so important. And that's it. So laptops and other devices, we had a look at functions of what laptops and mobile devices, additional power settings and wireless settings that are standard in these devices. We looked at the characteristics of mobile devices compared to desktops. In other words, they're basically the same, just in a different format. They need preventative maintenance performed on them. They have different methods of connecting to networks compared to desktops, because most desktops are just plugged in via a cable. Mobile devices will have other options to them, and stable troubleshooting guides and processes are your best friend.